So Warhammer 3 has been delayed, of course, until 2022, and it might even get delayed again because that's how these things go. It's never a good sign. It always indicates that something is not right, and it even can be the start of a development hell type situation, which I suspect we might actually have because if you think about it, between Warhammer 1 and Warhammer 2, there was what, 2 years? So 2016, hang on, let's make sure of this. Yeah, Warhammer 1, May 2016. Warhammer 2, 28th of September 2017, holy shit. Wow, I didn't realise that. Barely a year? Holy shit. Alright, so it's been barely a year between Warhammer 1 and 2, and then it's been 4 years, more than 4 years since Warhammer 2. So it was meant to be a game a year, and now it's turned into 4 years and counting between games, and it might even get delayed again, it might be 5 years. So it's a bit of a weird situation. And then on top of that, we have a trailer. So I don't really care about trailers. Trailers, of course, are just bullshit. It's just marketing, it's not gameplay. Which, interestingly, seems to be one of the commonly circulated responses to this trailer amongst YouTubers. Because, first of all, we have Legends of Total War getting 100,000 views to basically say that he feels kind of jaded and that he wants gameplay and he's getting tired of trailers. I was quite surprised by the video. It seems honest and it seems like he's just saying what he thinks. I think he realises that this game might be disappointing. There's a real possibility, a non-trivial chance that this game is going to have some serious problems. Not least because it's been 4 years in the making and still got delayed, which is absolutely ridiculous. It's not even a real full game. It's an iteration on Warhammer 2. You're being resold largely the same product again with iterative changes on marketing, and I think people start to realise that. In addition to Legend of Total War's video, which I thought was sensible, pretty level-headed, grounded, sensible video, and it wouldn't have been very different from what I would have said. They probably just said it in a more mild way. But we also have this guy, PartyElite, 200,000 subscribers compared to nearly 400,000. So these are two pretty big people that usually make videos in response to these kinds of trailer things. And he said that they have nothing to show. He thinks that they have nothing to show, and that's why they're doing this marketing stuff. So we've had 4 years since Warhammer 2, and then we have a delay into 2022, so it could be a 6-month delay, a 4-month delay, it might be March that it's released, so that's 5 months, which is quite a lot of time. We had Dying Light 2 get delayed, and then get delayed again, so in this era of COVID, it seems like double delays are somewhat typical. And he seemed quite unhappy with this. He seemed to be... I'll just play a part of it and let him speak for himself.
It's been in development for how many years? You can't tell me there isn't any actual gameplay to show outside of these survival battles from a few months ago. Somewhere down the line, it feels like Creative Assembly forgot that they sell video games, not movies, and we've seen
Yeah, exactly. So that's the part that I was trying to remember. And that's pretty much what I've been saying all along. This is all just marketing bullshit. Marketing has no bearing on the quality of the game, which is what you should actually care about. The better the marketing, the worse the game, if you go by the assumption that money spent on marketing is not being spent on the actual game. And that's why everyone should ignore marketing. For every person out there that's attentive to marketing, you are cancelling out the positive influence of any person out there that waits until he knows a game is good before he buys it. You are nullifying the proper influences on the outcome of games by being like that. And they know it, and they are just going all in on it with all of these trailers. But surprisingly, it seems like that even though it just seems to be a regular trailer. We've seen this for years from Creative Assembly. After the Siege of Carthage trailer for Rome 2, I don't know why the fuck anyone pays attention to trailers or marketing. But they still do it. They still make trailers, and this just seems like a typical trailer. It's just all flash, like, oh, look at all this cool stuff, you should be excited about this game. There's nothing really objectionable about this trailer, but nonetheless, YouTubers seem to just have, some of them at least, are coming out, and they have a lot of subscribers, and they're just saying that they are fed up with this bullshit, they've had enough. That not just that, but that they're actually worried. It might be the context of the delay after already being delayed by years if you look at the gap between the games. Alright, so we've got YouTubers sort of seeding the discourse with concerns, so now let's get on to the point of the video. If you look at the subreddit, we have all of these threads appearing that suddenly just have thousands of upvotes. This is the biggest one, 19 hours ago. I've determined I will enjoy Warhammer 3 more if I unsub from the Shithole sub. I'm not naturally a video game critic. I didn't know WOC were terrible until I read it here. I didn't realise the Beastmen DLC was lame until Reddit informed me. More recently, I didn't really get the vibe that Dawi desperately need a rework, but a multi-page exegesis of why the Dawi were terrible quickly enlightened me. This sub has a tendency to point out flaws that I never would have picked up on otherwise. And that's a bad thing. You're becoming aware of things, and that's a bad thing. It's like the Matrix blue pill. Holy shit, you want to just stay oblivious. You want to just keep shoveling down the pablum and be none the wiser. You want to keep paying money for things that you can blissfully enjoy in your delusion and not question it. You want to pay for inferiority, and you're happy with that. You want to just have that go on. You're unhappy that you've had your head shoved in the fucking water and you've been woken up. I've shifted away from the majority demographic. I started following this sub in 2016, and for sure the growth has been tremendous, but as the years have gone by, I'm assuming that the majority of active participants remain young students who have way more time in their hands than I do. The people commenting are just in a different life stage than I am now. Weird analysis. The negativity is ramped way up in the past year. Warhammer 1 was amazing. No, it wasn't. What? Warhammer 2 exceeded every expectation. No, it didn't at all. I really thought it was going to be the neglected middle child. I've been hyped for Warhammer 3 since 2016, and it's so strange to see the majority of the commentary be negative when I know for sure no matter what I will enjoy this new game immensely. Well, if you'll enjoy it immensely no matter what, then why do they need to try? Why are they putting any effort into the game whatsoever? If we've got you and you're going to enjoy it no matter what, they should just shove it out the door half done. See how malevolent this influence is? How pernicious it is to have people like this? This is such an atrocious post. 2,500 upvotes, basically saying that he is completely incompetent to evaluate the merits of the game. He's going to like whatever he gets fed, whatever shit they shovel at him, he's going to be happy with it, and that he's leaving the subreddit because it's too negative. How the hell is this written by a real person? How could you be more insidious than this? So I'm just going to keep up with CA's supposedly bad marketing somewhere else and get ridiculously hyped about this game with no one to spoil it for me. I realise this is no loss for the community, as I'm a lurker anyway, but it feels good to leave my opinion before I walk away. It's sad because in between the waves of controversy, I've learned a great deal about how to play the game well. There are lots of content creators who are posting great stuff on here, so hopefully the tone can swing back the other way. I'll pop in after the release and maybe a few patches have come through to see if the mood has brightened. Jesus. So he is castigating the sub for having any standards at all, because the situation is not a good one for Total War, and all you have to do is watch my Total Decline series and you can see that. This is just completely gormless. If I didn't know any better, I would say this was just completely satirical. This is all satire. This is a contemptible post. 2,700 upvotes, 88% upvoted, so this has 2,700 people upvoting it and 300 people downvoting it. Massively, overwhelmingly upvoted. And it's funny how posts like this can get 3,000 upvotes shitting on the whole subreddit for being negative, but this overwhelmingly negative subreddit gives it overwhelmingly positive upvotes. It's just a complete shithole of bipolar disorder. It's like they can't make up their mind. They just swing wildly depending on whatever flashy, exciting, controversial, dramatic bullshit gets thrust in front of them. Absolute shithole. Completely schizophrenic, up and down, back and forwards, all the time. If I may be so bold, 1,100 upvotes, the top response. This is video games in general. You'll find a shocking amount of hardcore gamers who play as their primary hobby avoid internet discussions like the plague due to just general negativity. Alright, now understand the sentence. You'll find a shocking amount of hardcore gamers who play as their primary hobby will avoid internet discussions like the plague due to just general negativity. Sometimes it comes from a place of love and wanting it to be the best game it can be, but, well, there is a reason gamers are notorious for being toxic people. It's funny how the guy that throws the tantrum with this attention-seeking histrionic post isn't toxic, but all the people around that have standards and are expressing concerns apparently are, wherever they are. See how the narrative just gets reversed? Warhammer was simultaneously the best and worst thing to ever happen to this series. I absolutely love the games and I'm happy to have had such a fun and expansive introduction to Warhammer as a whole. On the flip side, Jesus Christ, this shit has shades of Star Wars fandom at this point. Sometimes I can't tell if this is a Total War sub, a Warhammer sub, or just a Total War Warhammer sub, or just a flat out Warhammer sub. You and me both. Two somewhat niche IPs crossing streams has resulted in a bizarre and unnatural matrimony of fandom and weird internet zealotry. Still hyped for Warhammer 3 and whatever CA does from this point. Yeah, I came here as a Warhammer fan and I will definitely acknowledge that we have one of the most toxic online communities and one of the worst companies to deal with, Games Workshop. Games Workshop is terrible and I'm willing to put money that they have something to do with the delays and issues. That's interesting. Imagine if that was another way that they had meddled in Total War by insisting on some kind of delay with the release of this game. I've actually read that. What was it about this China faction, Cathay? Did Games Workshop recently conceive of this and it just happens to be included in Warhammer 3 just in time after it was delayed? Seems like a plausible conspiracy theory. Also, it's remarkable that Three Kingdoms can get fucking canned, and then a few months later we have Chinese factions being announced for Warhammer 3. What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this shit? Look at the state of this fucking franchise, holy shit. Was 3K really just not profitable enough to justify continuing to make, or was it starting to take the limelight away from this upcoming Chinese faction in Warhammer? How do you have a Chinese faction in Warhammer getting hype and generating interest when you've already got a Chinese game, a whole Chinese game in the spotlight for years? It just doesn't fit. It's just such a mess, a discoordinated mess. But the Warhammer community is also insanely toxic, and Grimdank makes this sub look like a bunch of mature adults. Holy shit, you mean it gets worse than this? There is worse out there? Had to unsub from Grimdank when I realised half of the posts were just big titty Eldar GF LMAO. Oh man. Let's find another high voted post, right? Because that one was 1,000. I like watching people scream at each other, so I'm subbed for the next 2 weeks. I just want to say, I did not notice any of this supposed negativity whatsoever. The only negativity I have noticed is what got brought up on my subreddit over here, and I've had my attention drawn to the video from Legend of Total War at the start that I went over a little bit, then the PartyElite video that I went over a little bit. Both of those got posted in here as examples of YouTubers coming out and raising concerns about marketing being bullshit and about the circumstances being very precarious. And then there is a slew of posts laughing at the Warhammer consumers, the absolutely despicable, contemptible shell posts. Not even shell posts, it's just bootlickers. I would call these bootlickers. Look, this one here, 2,700 upvotes for an absolutely pathetic thread from this guy. Just having all of the most undignified talking points in one post of bullet. What is it with the bullet points? They always have weird bullet points. It's like a shopping list. It's so cringy. They always do this stuff. They always have a bullet-pointed list of cringe. Alright, and then the next one, because it's not just one post with 2,700 upvotes, there's a few of them. They were all brought to my attention, and yeah, it seems like there's... I don't know what you would even call it. Are they spazzing out? Is there actually something going on here? Is there a big wave of outrage? Is this manufactured? Let's take a look. Top posts for the past week, right? Top votes this week, and let's see what we've got. What's this? Nah, I don't know what the fuck that is. Cringe. Alright, so we've got Siege rework, which is a really big issue because they've been really lazy about sieges. They've basically stripped sieges out of these games. They're trying to forget about sieges completely, and there's a tug of war going on where people want them to get put back in. And then there's a trailer that's a post, this suggestion that there's a trailer coming. Another one about the Siege rework. See, look! All of the highest voted posts are just concern trolling about negativity. What the fuck? Then another one here. This is the other one. 1,600 upvotes. We'll look at that in a second. See, there's no negativity here, really. And then this one that I could get into. I might go over this one on my second channel. So subscribe to my second channel if you haven't. And I might go over this one. Because this is a post by someone that I recognise from my subreddit. And he's pointing out how the guns in Warhammer 2 are way, way fucking worse than the guns in Medieval 2. And he's got 1,100 upvotes doing that. And of course, I already made a video, the falsification of Total War's ranged combat, going over how the ranged combat in Total War has just been completely neutered into absolutely unimpressive, brain-dead, tactically flat garbage. And the guns are a great example of that, because of course, everyone knows guns, Jesus. Synonymous with warfare, and this is Total War. And yeah, there's just nothing negative here. I don't see anything negative here. And there's another post. So this is another one that I might go over on my second channel. How do you think CA can make melee infantry viable on higher difficulties without the ridiculous bonuses? So that's another one that I could maybe go over. 355 comments. And then if we look at the one about guns, 250 comments. So these are getting a lot of responses. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. The negativity, what are people just flooding trailer posts with negative comments and that's what they're talking about? Because I don't see it. I don't see it. Never again. There's nothing here. There we go, now we've found another one. I don't get the pessimism of some people towards Warhammer 3. 169 comments. So it seems like there might just be a situation of manufactured outrage. Alright, so let's look at this next thread. The negativity around Warhammer 3 is getting out of hand lately. Siege rework is never coming. Pre-order race is never coming. Pre-order race? People want pre-order bonuses! Cathay roster is gonna suck. Well, what difference does it make? It's simply a reiteration of Warhammer 2's systems and mechanics. You're not getting a new game, bro. It doesn't make a difference. You're just gonna get the most similar faction from the previous game, Warhammer 2, copy-pasted over. Some of the textures and models get changed for the units, and then the stats get tweaked accordingly. It's not going to be any different. You're not going to get anything new. Come on, Cinch roster is going to suck. Yeah, see, these are just... What are these concerns? What the hell? You guys need to take a break from the internet, really killing the mood for what's supposed to be the most exciting event in Total War Warhammer history so far. Yeah, because your mood right now is more important than if everyone else gets a good game. Wow, look at this shit. Look at this. Alright, let's look at the top rated comments on this. 700 upvotes. And it's climbing. I think they're facing some developmental setbacks. Warhammer 3 is almost intimidating from a development standpoint, yes. How is it? How is it? All the work has been done. Not only do they have the engine already in place from Empire over a decade ago, but they also have Warhammer 2 there as the blueprint that they just have to copy-paste. How is this a difficult game to make? What the fuck? How the fuck? Yes, even considering they have the whole of Warhammer 2 to work upon, so he's acknowledging it. Plus they're going for 7 races at launch. 7, 9 LL in total. 7 races? It's reiterative? What the fuck? Why are people impressed by this? What the fuck? How is this ambitious? You already have the template for what a race is in place from all the other races. Jesus fuck. If this were Warhammer 2, our standards would be set by Warhammer 1, and let's be frank, factions were much more samey, and race-specific mechanics were less fancy. Fancy? Really? They're fancy? We went from, your faction has 10% more campaign movement and buffs this and that unit, to, your faction has an entire UI dedicated to heavy customization that makes you feel like you're playing a different game altogether. Alright, well if that's true, then that's not bad. That's more like it. Now they can't go back to Warhammer simpler times. They have to design the flavorful, what's a weird word? What the fuck? Interesting mechanics of late Warhammer 2 to not incur in disappointment. Meanwhile, they have big tasks ahead that in 5 years of Warhammer they didn't fix, with sieges and diplomacy being the two most requested reworks. That's really strange because both Three Kingdoms and Troy have full-blown sieges. And Troy was really just a half game. And diplomacy was done in Three Kingdoms. They can just copy-paste that over because they love to copy-paste. Why can't they just copy-paste? I remember when this game was only 6 factions, it's been a wild ride. The Mortal Empires map has come a long way. I remember when they optimised it and it turned into such a better experience. I have faith in their ability to expand on that with these new factions. End turns used to take 5 minutes. And on top of that, CA over-marketed their game before schedule, and the stupid amount of hype and this subreddit is no help either. Everyone is at fault here. Yep, fair enough. Because this is a terrible audience, a terrible consumer base. Really bad consumer base. The best action, of course, is to chill the fuck out. Let the ridiculous mob mentality burn out in the subreddit so we don't have this massive mood swing between the next game will be perfect and it's going to be garbage every day. Exactly, that's what it's like. Oh my god, I really don't like this fucking consumer base. Just stop paying attention to marketing. Stop anticipating games. The only time to be excited about a game is when it's came out and everyone is saying it's amazing and you have good reason to think they're being honest. Fucking paying attention to marketing. Fucking anticipating games that are months away. What are you doing? It's 2021. Rome 2 was like 8 years ago now. Jesus. Rome 2 was in 2013, which actually is, believe it or not, 8 years ago. We've already seen the Siege of Carthage trailer 8 years ago, and we know better than to pay attention to marketing. It's all bullshit. Watch the Legend of Total War video, watch the PartyElite video. Never thought I would be saying that, but yep. But I forgot to point this out. Even though he says a major flaw and why I'm worried, and then gives a sensible video, he still has buy it here to support the channel, so he's encouraging the extremely pernicious action of pre-ordering. So I don't get that. Game is majorly flawed and he's really worried about it, but pre-order it is really strange. There's no reconciliation for that, really. We have to just assume that it was a copy-pasted description and he left it there. Otherwise, he's encouraging pre-orders of games that he's really concerned about, that he doesn't have reason to think are going to be good, because that's the only sensible thing to be worried about. That's what we're all here for, the games. There's nothing else to be concerned about but the game itself and the gameplay. Alright, let's keep looking down this thread to see if there's anything else that's amusing. The backlash to backlash. The cycle starts anew. Yep, and I really was unaware that this whole subreddit was apparently collectively shitting itself over the current situation, where it seems to me that all that happened is a trailer dropped, but we have all of these threads generating outrage over, I don't know what the fuck, it's weird. That's the result of making various amount of soon comments, promises and teases. CA has done it to themselves. Pre-order race was coming soon in spring. What? People are excited about being informed about which race they're going to get if they engage in the disgusting self-destructive act of pre-ordering. What has the world come to? What is going on? Jesus. Siege rework was teased in summer 2 or 3 months ago, and again a month ago Chaos factions were supposed to be different from each other, yet as of now we only have reskins. Reskins? Jesus. If CA, this is it. Like, this is them starting to notice how these games are made, how the sausage is fucking made. It's just copy-pastes, and when that slips through into trailers, because trailers are an attempt to make the game look better than it actually is, because games are in development when these trailers are made. A game in development is an absolute train wreck that looks like shit. So if you manage to notice in trailers there's reskinning, then you've started to see behind the curtain and notice what happens to games when they're being produced, being made. If CA didn't make any statements or simply waited with giving trailers, we wouldn't be here with all this negativity. Is the community free of blame? No, of course not, but the reason we're here now is because... The reason hence why is because due to, of both sides, CA is as guilty for the current of the community as the community itself. Yeah, so it's hard to really see where this all started. We have YouTubers making videos getting 100,000 views, so there is a starting point. Then we have the supposed negativity going on in this subreddit to make it completely shit itself, and have these posts get overwhelming upvotes to completely drown out whatever they're supposed to be in response to, which is really ironic. It's really ironic and counterproductive when your post that's supposed to be pushing back against negativity completely drowns out the negativity and Streisand affects the fuck out of the negativity. I've still not seen any of this negativity, and I had no way to discover it readily. There's no avenue to come across this negativity that's being described. I wouldn't even know where to begin, but it's easy to find these posts getting 3,000 upvotes describing it. It's so weird. This is a strange place. Alright, so we've pretty much exhausted this place. On to the next one. 250 upvotes 19 hours ago. These all came out at around the same time. 2 days ago, 20 hours ago, 21 hours ago. I don't get the pessimism of some people towards Warhammer 3. Look, I understand that the counter-hype is starting to set in, but let's be honest here, this game won't be worth getting on release. What are you talking about? You don't know that. There is no possible way for you to know that. Why would you say this? Holy shit. You saying this means that they no longer need to try. This is you saying that you're already convinced it's worth buying and they don't need to try any harder. They can just stop trying now. The more people that say this, the sooner they can say, alright, we've done enough. We don't need to crunch. That's it. It doesn't need to be any better than it already is. It's good enough. Let's ship out. Even without any siege or other mechanic reworks. What the fuck? We don't need reworks or what? We don't need you're undoing the work that people are doing to ask for better, to insist on standards. Jesus, you're saying that it's already going to be good enough without the thing that we're asking for to be done to improve it. Why would you say this? Holy shit. It's 250 upvotes on this clearly deleterious garbage. There's going to be 7 new races in the base game, with an 8th as a free DLC for pre-order and buying the game at launch, and a whole new campaign map, plus they're going to add an Immortal Empires campaign for people who have Warhammer 1 and 2 at some point in 2022. Point being, as long as the game is functional, you'll get 50 to 100 hours of content. 50 to 100 hours of content out of your $60 purchase, even if it uses the exact same mechanics and engine as Warhammer 2, which they're clearly not going to do. What the fuck are you on about? When have they ever intimated that they're not going to use the same engine? Where are these headlines? Where are all the trailers showing revolutionary new engine that simulates melee combat in a way that's never been seen before in Total War? A completely groundbreaking next generation new engine that makes the combat in previous games look really outdated and old, and that brings in a new era, ushers in a new era of amazing real-time strategy, real-time tactics games. Where are these headlines? Where is it? I've not seen it. I have not seen it. So even in the worst case scenario for Warhammer 3, which means it's just Warhammer 2 on a new map, which it obviously is going to be. It obviously is going to be this worst case scenario. The game would still be worth playing. Oh wow, alright, well, what? False alarm, everyone. It's still going to be worth playing, so false alarm. We should be happy that it's going to be worth playing. Wow. So can we as a community just chill? What the fuck? We have people like you getting 250 upvotes on this nonsense. We should be fucking panicking right now that you can get 250 upvotes. This means that this is an extremely gullible, soft consumer base that CA don't even need to try for. You are the reason that we can't ever relax on our laurels, rest on our laurels, and just chill. It's because of you that we can't do that. You ensure that there's always going to be a threat that these games are going to suck hard. The game will be done when it is done. Alright, this is sensible. Yep, exactly. Stop begging for games to come out as soon as possible. Stop doing that. You should say to developers, this is what you should be doing right now to developers. You should be saying, we're not going to buy your game if it's shit. Don't release unfinished, half-baked crap. Release a properly finished fucking game that's up to our standards and expectations, because if you don't, we're not going to buy it. We don't care about your marketing. We don't care about these stupid trailers. Stop wasting all this money on all these goddamn trailers. We were here during Rome 2. We know what this is, and it's just fucking useless. Make the game. Shut up and make the game. Make sure it's good. And then when it comes out, and then when everyone says in unison that the game is good, that's when I'll pay attention to it and buy it. Just be quiet and make the game and make it good. And then we'll buy it, and then everyone's happy. Okay? Like, this is all bullshit. And it will be, at worst, a fine game worth buying. Jesus fucking Christ. Fuck's sake. Alright, and now let's look at the responses. Not buying this game has never been an option. Jesus. But the recent criticism has been warranted, and I prefer fanbase which are engaged and active instead of the opposite. There's a difference between engaged and active and toxic after imagining stuff from a few seconds of trailer armchair analysis. There's nothing to analyse in trailers. It's worthless. It's not gameplay. It's just fucking cinematic CGI that's to make people get hyped about something that may or may not be worth the hype. It's completely disconnected. It's not worth paying attention to. Don't be engaged and active. Don't be toxic after imagining stuff from a few seconds of trailer armchair analysis. Be jaded and fed up with trailers and want good games, and don't buy them unless you know they're good. Buy games, and if they're less than what you expected, if it's a tepid, lukewarm, mediocre game, just get Steam to refund it, and then say that if it was better, you would have kept playing it and you would have not asked for a refund. That's what you should do. But there's also a difference between imagining stuff from a few seconds of trailer and, when you have no information on something besides a trailer, using the trailer to make informed takes and analysis. Okay, yeah, if they're just shoveling constant trailers at you and they have nothing to show of any merit, maybe you should be concerned, yeah? Look at what Manor Lords does. Look at his Twitter. He shows in-engine actual pseudo gameplay, early stage development gameplay. He shows off what he's working on. We haven't seen anything like that from Creative Assembly. It's all just CGI trailers, big budget CGI bullshit trailers. All flash, no substance. All talk, no action. They can talk the talk, but they can't walk the walk. You can tell in the margins of the cafe trailers what the Siege forces look like, and some people dislike that. You can very clearly see a flat front siege map in the latest trailer, and some people dislike that. Alright, fair enough. And the actual content of the reveals isn't really what people are getting irritated at. It's that there's no substance to any of the information or reveals we're getting, and there hasn't been since May, when it is now October and the game was prematurely announced in February and now doesn't have a release date. I'm going to upvote this because I can actually read it. I have a really hard time reading the posts on this subreddit, this shithole sub, because people just cannot make fucking sentences that are actually properly structured and intelligible. Obviously, seeing and hearing more about Cathy is interesting and engaging and important. However, even then, we've had news days wasted on duplicate/irrelevant information when a single paragraph of fluff about the creation of the crane guns would have sufficed. Besides Cathy... Why is it called Cathy? I've got an auntie called Cathy. Besides Cathy, the other new thing since then people have had to talk about is Siege, and I think it's justified for people to say that the units on show and the only Warhammer 3 content we've seen so far involving Siege aren't as distinct as Khorne's, and this is disappointing as largely the whole point of Monogod Chaos Factions is more diverse and distinct Chaos forces of all kinds. Alright, well I don't know what any of this paragraph really meant, but I read it anyway. But this was all sensible, and he gets not a vote from me for being readable. No, not really, I'm not reading that one, fuck that. Some of the most recent criticisms have been warranted. However, have been pulling background stuff from Warhammer 3 trailers and turning the dumb rate up to 11. People have weird ways of phrasing things. Fucking hell, I really don't like the way these people talk. Jesus. It's like Mean Girls or something. It's like... I don't know where it is, it just gives me like passive-aggressive vibes, Valley Girl vibes when I read this shit. Fuck's sake. I don't know how you even describe it. I'm struggling. I always just hate reading the comments on this place. Like, there's so much that I can just fucking mock. It will be, at worst, a fine game worth buying. I'd be really careful saying this about any game without having seen any real gameplay beyond a novelty battle mode. Damn right! There we go. Jesse, what the fuck? Breaking Bad reference. Those of us who were here for Rome 2 know what I mean. There we go! There we go! Hell, Rome 2 turned out to be a steaming pile of garbage on launch. Even with tons of gameplay footage where it looked fine. Exactly, holy shit, exactly. They tried to show gameplay, exactly. It took ages to turn this mess around, and even then, they still didn't. There's absolutely no way that anyone already knows whether all the new features and systems, say, applied to Warhammer 3 will break anything or not. Before I come off as doom posting, no, I don't expect Warhammer 3 to suck, but I understand why people could be concerned. Exactly. It's not about whether the game will probably suck, or will suck, it's about whether there's a chance. Like, there should be no chance that this game is going to be garbage. That should not be indicated by anything at all. But it is being indicated. Constant delays and bullshit marketing trailers where people can apparently nitpick things and see things that are supposedly bad, like the sieges. Remember, they could have just done nothing. They could have just let everyone keep playing Warhammer 2 for another year, but instead we have all this bullshit. They could have just shut it up. There's absolutely no way that anyone already knows whether all the new features and systems C applied to Warhammer 3 will break anything or not. We don't even know if it has any, lol. Yeah. Oh my god. Warhammer 3 will probably not be broken on release for the same reason Warhammer 2 was not broken on release, i.e. because it's really closer to being a glorified faction/campaign pack than a sequel. Exactly! Holy shit, exactly! We've seen the gameplay, we've played the gameplay, it's Warhammer 2! Exactly! Holy shit, some people get it. Good job, good fucking job on these people, good job. Good job. I'm reading this even though it's not getting out votes, because I recognise the guy's sensible. You and me and many other people definitely still enjoy the game if it was Warhammer 2, but more of the same. But there are a lot of people here who really hate sieges as they are currently implemented. Yeah, because they're pretty much brain dead, aren't they? They were crappy in Troy, crappy in Three Kingdoms, and in Warhammer 2 apparently they're just completely unintuitive and pointless. I can totally understand how you'd want your base your purchase on the rework if you're of the opinion that sieges currently suck, and how you'd start becoming a pessimist when it's not shown yet. In the end, it's down to where your priorities with this game lie. I'm glad I looked at the comments on this one because some of these are pretty decent. I brought this up in my video about how Total War sold out to the toy company from hell, but I'm going to do it again, and I like that I came across comments that describe the reiteration aspect of Total War, so I'm going to read this now. All of these forms of video game DLC, and remember Warhammer 2 pretty much is just a DLC, and Warhammer 3 is going to be pretty much a DLC. They're both the same game as Warhammer 1. Not only attempt to lock their customers into a perpetual cycle of commodification. So, Warhammer 1 has been recycled into 2 more games that are exactly the same pretty much, and they've got endless DLCs tacked on. Perpetual cycle of commodification. If you were to add up the flat dollar value of every single thing derived from Warhammer 1, so Warhammer 1, Warhammer 2, Warhammer 3, all the DLCs for each games, it would come out into the hundreds of dollars. And this is all for fundamentally a $60 game that's been expanded somewhat with DLCs. It used to be that you would pay $60 for a full game, and then $30 for an expansion, something like that, but now it's completely different. But also exploit the imperceptible difference in cost it takes to reproduce this downloadable content en masse. This is it. The endless DLCs, the profit margin that these afford. It costs almost nothing to make a DLC for a game that's already had all of the work go in to building the base. DLC is a rip-off. DLC is a rip-off. It is not as if it costs a great deal of money to reproduce and duplicate the physical software discs sold to users, but once the transmission of media to its customers becomes completely digital, the costs obviously go down significantly. This has not gone unnoticed in all the areas of media content discussed here, as music, ebooks and video game DLC rely on similar forms of lossless digital copying and transmission, and of course we have Steam as the ideal digitalization. So the physical aspect of these media has been completely eradicated. It's purely digital. There's no overheads for actual physical production. All of the costs go into the labour to produce it, which is exactly what you should want, because what you're ultimately paying for is the game and the experience itself, and you don't necessarily need a disc for that. What you want is the best possible game. And even though costs are being reduced, overheads are being removed as we go into this era of complete digitalization, we're not seeing that being passed down to the customer. On the contrary, the complete opposite is happening. We're paying more for way, 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 way less. Drawn on the canonical Walter Benjamin and his art in the work of mechanical reproduction, this phenomenon can be understood deeper despite Benjamin's era coming well before digital reproduction. Benjamin may have seen a certain progressive potential inherent in lossless art reproduction due to it creating distracted viewers, but he also famously warned of a loss of aura involved in stripping the art of an original and of its anchor in place and time. So this would be like if you were to be able to have a painting without a canvas, for example with NFTs, or a book without a spine and a hardcover and pages and bookmarkers, the physical touch of the paper, the smell of the paper, the physical book itself, the signature of the author that makes it unique. This obviously has implications for the aforementioned issues of commodity fetishism and the ability of these media companies to sell an infinitely reproducible product that users feel the need to invest in to complete their original game purchase. It's completely ironic that you're made to feel as if you're completing a collection when you buy a game and all the DLCs, when in reality you have nothing. You're living in a complete fantasy world where the opposite is true. You no longer buy a disc of polycarbonate with the information of the game etched into it. You no longer have that. It's not yours anymore. Video game user exploitation reaches an all-time high through this increasing reliance on the DLC model that is formed around the Debord concept of pseudo-cyclical time, and works in concert with issues of commodity fetishism and completionist fandom. And this is so pertinent to Total War and to Warhammer. This pseudo-cyclical time basically means that your time is being passed in the same way over and over again, and it really is when you have DLCs that are just showing you cool monsters over and over again. This is why I despise the term content, because it reduces the experience to simply being the passing of time to consume pablum. Content has no inherent implications for quality or value. It's just something that you spend time and energy on interacting with, consuming, utilising, using. It doesn't necessarily have any virtue whatsoever. The shittiest game ever made has content. I mean, it's just... So that's what that's talking about there. You're not just sacrificing your money, you're also sacrificing your time. And by buying games and DLC, especially DLC, that exists to do often little more than just occupy your time, not just an imminent commodity, but also a perpetual cycle of commodification constructed by making players pay for the same game over and over again, which I can't really think of a better example today than Warhammer. Obviously you have FIFA games, like I remember I would buy FIFA 5, FIFA 6, FIFA 7, and even then I knew that it was pretty much the same game every time. But now Total War's come into that, and it's just strange. It's really strange. And I think part of that is that we just enabled it because we were grateful that someone was willing to reiterate the world of football, the whole sport, every single year with as much fidelity as possible. And I think that it's that kind of fanboy mindset that enables these kinds of extremely lazy reiterations. And you've got the same thing again in the case of Warhammer fanboys. You have a whole fan base that is just grateful that there's someone willing to do repeated depictions so they can have their toy over and over again so they can just keep playing with it. What truly becomes an issue then is that this exploitation through DLC, and it is exploitative, DLC has always been exploitative, always, asking people to pay commensurately more for commensurately less effort and work is exploitative. It comes concurrently at a time when the video game industry places a parallel increasing reliance on users for free and immaterial labour in the form of game testing and content creation. It's a weird sentence there. And yet this is another thing. So whenever you're given feedback on a game for being bad, you are essentially doing something that would otherwise need to be paid for. You're doing free quality assurance, free playtesting, and game developers are relying more and more on the people that buy their games to be the ones to give them this feedback. You shouldn't have to do that. It should be their job to do that. You should get discounts on games if you're giving feedback on them for being bad. Anytime you leave a post on a forum that ends up helping developers, you should get a goddamn discount on that, because your labour is going into making the game better, even though you're not even meant to be an employee of the company. You're the person playing the game, buying the game. And content creation, yeah, this is another thing. Modders have not really had a good time in Total War, so you can see how this analysis has so much utility, so much application to Total War, and this was written in 2012, and this is an attempt to use Marxist analysis to analyse DLC and the video game industry, and I don't know how you can deny any of this. I don't know how you can take issue with any of this. This is all true. This has been completely vindicated by the past 9 years, and at this point, with Warhammer 3 on the horizon, I thought this was an especially good time to look at this and point it out. And that's all from me today. If you want to see me talk about other threads on the Shithole subreddit, subscribe to my second channel. There's a playlist that I've got where I do that, and I'm going to be building it. I'm going to be able to build that playlist for years, I anticipate, so click on that playlist that I'll be adding to, I think. Link in the description, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. If you wish to support my work, I have a Patreon. Special thanks to my patrons Matteo Olivetti, Nerdington, The Rody451, Halcyon, and Robert Sparks.